Hello everybody in the physical and online world. I'm very glad that I have opportunity to speak in front of you of my, as you will see, research I did during writing dissertation thesis. I would like to start with why I actually decided to study the ways how the paganism is constructed. When I was doing my MA thesis, I was focused on one group in Slovakia and how the music of this particular guy is playing a role in his subculture and in his community. And as he was he was a pagan teacher, it was pretty connected to his pagan teachings. He was basically doing a mission with the songs. And when I was deciding where to go next, I was thinking about to understand a little bit more actually what the paganism is in pagan music. And I decided to focus on Czech pagan music scene. Therefore, my research questions were following, like in what ways is paganism constructed in contemporary pagan music made in Czech Republic? How is the paganism embodied in the music and lyrics and sounds of contemporary pagan bands? And what are the main strategies of construction of paganism? What is pagan? What is paganism? Is not that obvious. We all have some pre-knowledge of what it could be, what it should be. A lot of different discourses are interfering what we understand as it. And as a theory, I got inspiration for Partridge theory of occulture, and from his occulture milieu, that is basically appropriation by a subculture of occult themes. New Age also can be paganism in opposition to dominant culture. As you will see later, there are lots of discussion and lots of opposition to Christianity is appearing in the lyrics. Also, what was very important for me is coming from the Tia de Nora musicologist, that image of music as a empty vessel where the meaning is filled by people based on their association. I did choose to went with qualitative approach. I studied 20 Czech bands from 4 genres. So this paper is not only metal, but also I touch the field, the folk, punk, and ambient scene. I created this selection of a band based on data from informal interviews with music fans, also from music playlist of Czech fans available online, and also from the data from Encyclopedia Metallum, where you can select not only the genre but also the country, so it can give you a nice list of the Czech bands as well. And I was focused on main music composer motivation, so which I combined with textual analysis of lyrics. Before I dig more deeper in the strategies of construction, I will briefly present you the history of a Czech pagan music scene to get you more before the 1989, there is a period of the time where as we had yesterday, the presentation, basically all religious overtones in popular music were forbidden. So therefore, in comparison to United States or England, there are no pagan groups that are from people that claim they are doing pagan music, but what is important for the future emergence of the pagan music is that already in the 70s there can be visible fusion of folk music and with folklore, and also the 80s are very important period of the time as the foundation of the metal and punk scenes are created. And as a precursor of later boom of the pagan music can be see the album by Czech heavy metal band Citron called Radegast, after a Slavic pagan god, that is still today one of the most popular LP by the band, and also when the band is still playing songs from that LP. And I will talk about it a little bit later about the particular song Radegast. But for now, it's important just to note that this is like one of the first band that touched pagan topic at all. Next period I describe as the first wave of Czech pagan metal bands. I even invented a shortcut that I'm not sure that will ever be popular, but never mind. This first period is important that first bands thematizing paganism in some ways are appearing, mostly from metal and folk subgenre, and go in concurrence with this trend. We can also, what is very important for Czech context, is a popularity of everything Celtic. It started in early 90s. It's called Celtomania, and together with this fascination with Celtic culture, there were lots of music festivals as Beltane, where also music bands inspired by English folk music or Irish folk music started to play, and these places were later visited heavily by people who will later play, create, or will be fans of the pagan music. So, and for this period is basically because the paganism can be seen as an occultural spice to the lyrics. The second wave of Czech pagan metal bands starts, from my perspective, in 2008, and I decided to choose this date as this is a year when the first explicitly religious pagan band released its debut, called Žertva, which is sacrifice. And this period, this wave, can be defined by concurrence of various trends. First, religionization of pagan music scene. I will talk about it a little bit later in the end, but basically lots of bands are somehow connected to contemporary pagan movement in Czech Republic. Either that by the person or who are the leaders of the bands are somehow personally interested in pagan religion, contemporary, or they are acknowledged as pagan friendly by the fans. Also, the trend of Celtomania actually never vanished, only transformed, so those Celtic cultural festivals are still going on. Also, local and global scene is very heavily connected. Local scene is getting influences from abroad that is trying to reinterpret in Czech context. And what was very important is in the mid-2000s is the emergence of folk metal genre. I mean by that the popularity of bands like Korpiklany, Eluveitie, really they were and still are very huge in Czech Republic. Lots of people which are attending festivals are seeing those bands as they are usually very often visiting Czech festivals. So far for the introduction to the basic of the music scene, and now let's go to the strategies. Well, I found 8. First of all, the one of the most basic, the paganism is seen as a synonymous for preserved European pre-Christian mythology, which provides a suitable inspiration for a certain text with certain sound, usually including 4 instruments and melodies. Very good example is, for example, band Deloraine, which is a folk fantasy band that heavily uses various folk instruments, for example, from Scandinavia, to the songs about Nordic mythology, stories directly, for example, about the Ragnarok, which nobody in the band is really religious, more in the sense that they are like vaguely interested in mythologies, but they feel that their sound and their music will be more authentic if they, to those lyrics, they add certain instrument and they create certain sound. Second, paganism can be seen or is presented as dark, occult, forbidden religion, part of the broader occult milieu. That is most visible in the older, more heavy metal influenced band, also in the black metal band Inferno. What I mean by that, in the song Radagast by band Citron, the god Radagast is portrayed almost like some kind of ancient, vengeful god, or almost like some Cthulhu being that is almost forbidden, but it's still somewhere in those dark Czech Moravian forests waiting, and we should be afraid of it. It's really using that 80s heavy metal horror trope heavily, with basically no like true religious identity overtones. Third, paganism can be seen as ideological underpinning pillar for anti-Christian and anti-clerical attitudes. That's very typical for metal bands, and it has a lot to do with those transgressive things we've been talking all those 2 days. In Czech context, it's usually acculturized to local historical tradition. For example, what is very common trope that is appearing is that Moravia and Czech Republic both Christianized in the 9th century by Greco-Slavic missionaries Cyril and Methodius. And those two are seen like in a Christian discourse of a very important person who bring culture and Christianity to Czech Republic and are generally viewed very positively. In lyrics of those bands, is Cyril and Methodius are represented like 2 evil foreigners who are bringing the religion of the descent tribe from Palestine, and they are like basically destroying our true, authentic Slavic pagan religion. Fourth, paganism as an alternative pillar of national and ethnic identity. Very good example is song by Barbar Punk called Barbary, ze zemí pohanských, barbarian from pagan lands, which is basically a hymn of this punk pagan band. And they claim their origins not only to Slav, but also to Germanic tribe that used to live here, Celtic tribe that used to live here, and to Slavs as well. And what they are mostly interested is their pagan religion. They see it as a authentic, the more true for them. And then they are basically scratching the classic narrative of Czech people as a Slavic nation that was built in 19th century. Fifth, paganism as a sacralized folk culture. This tragedy is very common in Central and Eastern Europe, or also in local contemporary pagan movements. They often look to folk culture as a source of authentic knowledge of our ancestors, that where we can trace the signs of ancient wisdom of our ancestors. Sometimes there could be like Christians overturned to it, but if we replace them with a pagan, we can. The logic is that as the society was Christianized, the old pagan was covered by Christian layer. But if we uncover that Christian layer, that in that folk culture, we can see the true, authentic pagan religion. No matter if this narrative is more myth than true, it's a very common tragedy that is, for example, used in the lyrics of Tomáš Kočko, who in interviews with me claimed more than once that he's really doing this as he's studying folk culture, folk songs of Moravia, that he feels that there is some kind of truth from our ancestors that should be uncovered, and therefore he sees the folk songs as a true, authentic source for his pagan reconstruction in his lyrics. Next, paganism as authentic spirituality of our ancestors, strongly connected by nature, and this is very also connected with the idea of alleged harmonic nature of paganism, in contrary to contemporary modern society described as something bad, wrong, or imbalanced whatsoever. This is a very modern interpretation of paganism, and it's usually very visible in the lyrics of the bands whose main composers are interested in some type of contemporary paganism. For example, if we take a band, folk metal, heavy metal band Oberek, their main composer is heavily interested in one branch of Slavic contemporary paganism called Vedism, and basically they came up with, to put it very briefly, that all people from India, all Aryans are actually Slavs, our Slavs are actually Russian, so we all are Slavs and Russian and Aryan in the same time, and Vedic culture is actually our true authentic culture, and the science is hiding this truth from us, and this belief is very strongly presented, for example, in song Slované, we Slavs, where he's pushing and trying to awaken people from the slumber for 1,000 years that the truth is somewhere else. And the last one, paganism as a kind of specific transformative mood, state of mind that can be evoked through sounds association. For example, sounds of nature, human voice, rhythmically repetitive sounds, and folk instrument. This is very true for the bands, for ambient bands, who usually don't have don't put that much focus on lyrics, but more to use the music and sounds as and also voice as a tool to evoke some mood. So the paganism is a really something that happens in your mind, inside of you, when you hear certain sounds that gave you some associations. And for example, bands like Nemuer or Svarga or Jeden Kmen, which will be talked very soon in more details by other presenter. Those bands, for example, Svarga, that's basically a ritual Slavic band created by one leader of the contemporary pagan band, or of the one leader of Czech pagan religious movement. And he used the music of the band really to get people in the mood for the ritual. Okay, maybe some of you were asking, well, if this should be all about paganism, what's your definition of paganism, dude? What I've noticed during my research that one definition of paganism is not very useful for me. And also I noticed that lots of researchers from abroad sometimes took one perspective, for example, of contemporary pagans to define paganism. That's, for example, happened to Donna Weston in her chapter about paganism and popular music and handbook of study of popular music as a religion. He basically defines pagan music and pagan elements by defining contemporary paganism. But from one perspective, good, very cool, but I feel it's not like the whole picture. What I noticed that there are two very important discursive influencing how the paganism is structured in lyrics. The first one is scientific. It's basically the main sources of information about pre-Christian paganism for musicians. We can observe influence of different schools from 19th century at least of academic research on paganism. For example, I remember that I'm following on Facebook one Czech pagan musician, and I noticed that he was on vacation on Croatia or whatsoever, and he was reading book by Michal about Perun. And really, that's the epitome of that. The musicians are reading scientific books about paganism, often very heavy, full of quotation, and that scientific mumbo jumbo about theories and stuff like that. And they are trying to take, because they are seeing the science as a true, authentic source of information for their lyrics. What they do with the lyrics, that's completely different thing. But they take elements from it and they create stories. And of course, the very idea of possibility of reconstructing Christian paganism from folk culture is from 19th century ethnology. And also the national revivalistic tendencies are taken from Herder and from his philosophy. And the second important discourse is neo-pagan. We have to sum it very briefly, since 50s, we can observe a wave of interest in contemporary paganism, and we have lots of revivalistic pagan religion, Wicca, Asatru, Druidry, native faith movement, there's plenty of them. And they started to happen in Czech Republic in late 90s, early 2000s, and lots of musicians are, I noticed during my research that the number of musicians who are also interested in contemporary paganism, like it's their primary religious identity, and is slowly going up. And that influence, for example, their tradition they decide to follow, for example, Slavic, Celtic, German, it's connected to their personal religious identity. And also, it could be very important compass for the inspiration. If I talk about band Oberek, that guy is not reading that book about Perun from Michal because he would say that that book is untrue. Instead, he, for example, takes the book of Veles, and he says, okay, this book, which is religious book about Slavic paganism, that's a very good source for the lyrics, and he took inspiration from it. Okay, closing remarks. I was speaking about a culture in the beginning, so how was that concept useful for me? I see a culture as useful explaining how the paganism is used in decontextualist context in lyrics of pagan bands. We can observe a growing amount of bands who are interested in Vikings, most notably, together with the popularity of TV series Vikings. That, for example, was stated by the band Wolfarian, who in their debut called Far Away from the North. Surprise, surprise, it's about Nordic mythology. Religious identity and attitude toward mainstream churches of the main band composers influence a lot the use and the way how the pagan motifs are intertwined in the lyrics and the sounds of the bands. And I would argue, based on the examples I gave you, that sounds and lyrics of pagan bands in Czech Republic are strongly influenced by a local tradition of paganism, how it's understood, for example, in science since 19th century, but also in local tradition of contemporary paganism. And that's a very important thing to note, that my findings are heavily rooted in local scene. And I would conclude my paper with saying that emergence of pagan motif in Czech popular music is strongly connected to different Czech process of secularization, or a culture concept is heavily connected with a critical review of secularization thesis that the society actually is not less religious but differently religious, that there is some boom of new religious movement. But that didn't happen in 60s and 70s in former Czechoslovakia, but it did happen since the 90s. And when that happened, also the pagan bands started to appear. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you.